Hey guys, in today's video we're going to be analyzing Hans Niemann's game against Sebastian May's GM, Sebastian May's. Hans is an IM at the time, you can see by the rating. And this is the 7th round of the tournament he's playing in. This was held in 2020 of the Sunway sites, I don't know, Sunway sites, and let's get right into it. Okay, so Hans opens the game with d4. His opponent responds with the traditional knight to f6, stopping Hans from playing an early e4, and here Hans plays c4. Trying to play knight c3, e4, knight f3, get all those pieces up, e6, knight c3. Here, black plays the move bishop to b4 to prevent white from playing this move e4. Let's say if white, for example, did play this move e4, the black would simply take. As this is pinned, the knight cannot take. It's not legal. And yeah, this is just a loss of a pawn. So instead, white has some ideas in the down the road of playing f3, d5. If f3 is played, then d5. F3, e4. Like, for example, if f3 happens and castles, now e4, and this is a very good position for white. Okay, evaluation bar doesn't say it, but white is more comfortable in these sort of positions. So, okay, Hans chooses to play e3, maybe f3 in the future, and now his opponent castles. So now here Hans has some ideas. He can kick the bishop out, forcing the trade. I mean, not forcing, but the trade will occur, and then he can play he can play after d5. He can play knight f3, bishop d3, and then here he has the two bishops. But okay, I mean, this bishop is slightly bad. And this bishop isn't doing too good, but you could say the same about black's bishop. So this would be a relatively good position for white, getting that small nagging edge out of the opening. So here Hans opts for bishop to d3, putting the bishop on this diagonal. Maybe he has some future hopes of playing g4, g5, queen a5, and checkmating his GM opponent. By the way, this game had no captures. Just pointing that out. So you won't see any captures. So. Okay, b6, just developing the bishop down the road and hitting this pawn. So let's say, for example, if you played, like, I don't know, queen c2. Now bishop here, and now this kind of slows down the attack, as you cannot push p up the board currently. If you play this, you just lose your rook. Right. And also, like, the pawn cannot be taken, obviously. Check. Okay. So here, Hans plays... here there's some more positional ideas. Of course, queen to b3 is an option after like a5, a3, something like this. No. And then so here Hans opts to play this move knight g to b2, defending his knight. So maybe down the road he could play a3, and when the trade occurs, say for example the queen e7, instead of ruining his pawns, he takes with the knight, keeps his pawn nice and stable, and plays for some e4. Instead in the game, his pawn plays bishop to b7, and now Hans plays a3. Now, you might see that this is a gambit of the g2 pawn, and it very well is. And if this would have happened in the game, it would have been quite interesting to see how Hans would have attacked his opponent. But instead, instead in the game, bishop to e7 was played, but his opponent could have taken, and after knight takes, they could have taken, possibly, but here after rook g1 and bishop here, and like e4, the bishop is coming in, so is the queen, the bishop, the queen, e5, it's just absolutely dominant. So instead, Hans' GM opponent plays the best move, bishop to e7. Oh. Okay, Hans' GM opponent plays bishop to e7, and after this move e4, taking central space, Hans is a little bit better, plus 0.8. Now here, firstly this pawn is going to stay here forever, because if you ever try to dislodge it, you can simply trade and play e5, and now this is even better, because the knight can hop, the bishop can come, and the pawn just, your position plays itself, right? So here instead, Hans' GM opponent, they're in a little bit of a struggle, so here they opt to play this move d6. The idea of d6 is basically I want to put my knight here, I want to move my rook, and I want to put my knight here and put the knight on g6. Basic idea, right? Yeah, or play knight e8, f5, and then possibly bring this knight in. So basically, this is freeing up the d7 square, and it's also stopping some potential e5s. So you can see, so here they played knight c6. Now e5 is very strong because of this, and then f4, and this is just so good, right? So instead d6 is played. Because if this would have been played, take knight here, pawn is just weak. People saying there's something better. I don't know. So instead castles is played by Hans, a good choice. But now his attack kind of slows down for the moment because the kings are both castled and it's very hard to attack. Right now here his opponent lashes out with c5. This is kind of a last-minute resort, because his opponent sees very well. f4 is coming, e5 is coming, g4 is coming, h4 is coming. And the pawns are just going to keep pushing. There's nothing his opponent can do. Right, so instead, Sebastian Mays plays c5, lashes out. This is the top computer move, and Hans locks the position. In chess, generally, when you're trying to attack, you want the center to be locked. Because when the center is all open, the defending pieces can maneuver nicely to defend. But in this case, what this move d5 does is it drastically weakens this e5 square. And for white. And the only other way you can defend is f4, but here his opponent plays e5, which is a mistake. Because that square was for the knight, right? Or possibly that square could have been for these two pawns like this. But when you start with e5, now this allows knight g3. I was gonna say this allows f4, but at the moment f4 is, I think, it's dubious because knight here, no, take knight h5, something like this, right? Where see now black's pieces they're all coming into play. Okay, so they're all coming into play, and white's attack is kind of petering. So instead, Hans plays knight g3. He slowballs this, disallowing this knight h5 idea. Queen and the knight both see it, and his GM opponent Sebastian Mays opts to put the knight back on the home square. This is so passive. It's unbelievable actually how passive this entire position is for black, because if you think about it, give me a second. Okay, so if you think about it, all of black's pieces are not past the second rank. Right? They're not past this rank, and the only way to get this bishop back in the game is to move it here, right? This is the only way, because it's looking into a brick wall. And this bishop is stuck behind its pawns. So this is an absolutely terrible position for the black pieces. And here, Hans lashes out. Oh, sorry. I thought again he was going to play f4. Second time? Oh my god. Here he plays knight to f5, putting the knight in the center, bishop to f6, and now g3. So here, Hans could have opted to play f4. This was a good moment to do it, because if the trade had occurred, bishop or rook, it doesn't really matter. If the trade would have occurred, now see, here, again, black's pieces, this knight is stuck. Can't go anywhere, right? And here, of course, this just hangs the pawn. But, again, so here it would have been very difficult for his opponent to make a move. I think g6 would have been forced, after which queen b4, etc. And maybe knight h6. Okay. So, here, Hans' opponent sacrificed. Oh, so this happened. No, it's not happened. Here, g3 is played. Bishop to c8. Again. These pieces, they're absolutely terrible. h4, g6 is played, hitting on the knight. And here, to which Hans could have possibly played knight h6 and knight g4, but this was slightly too passive for his liking, and said he does not bring the knight back to h4. He simply plays king g2. His idea, h4, h takes, rook on h1, I'm gonna checkmate you. Right? So instead, his opponent does not allow this and tries to remove this knight from play. Okay, bishop g7, h5, g5, trying to say, okay, your knight's hanging, you have to move it. Let's say if you don't, we do f3 or rook h1, or there's the rook, and black is completely winning. Okay, so instead, Hans plays the best move, knight to g4. After this move, queen to d7, it's a terrible idea. This bishop is perfect. It's placed in the only square that it can actually do anything. And you're blocking it with the queen. So, I don't think this is a very good idea. I don't think... I forgive his opponent because there's nothing for him to do. Like, rising talent is absolutely beating you. Like, if Hans wins this game, he's going to become a GM. Like, I'm not saying his opponent went easy on him, but that might be a contributing factor. So queen to d7 is played, f3, h6, rook to h1, a6, knight to e3, and here Hans has the very straightforward idea of playing knight to f5, f4, and taking. And again, these pieces are not doing anything. Like, name one piece that is attacking a white piece. Like, literally, none of black's pieces are attacking any white pieces. Even the pawns, for that matter. Like, literally. Like, the queen isn't touching anything, so knight here is played. Technically, you could say that about white, too, but white has a little bit more space, so knight c7 is played. And here, Hans Niemann detonates the most astonishing blow ever. Now, please take a moment to pause the video and try to find this astonishing blow. You would think it has to do with the king side, but please try to take a minute. Can pause the video. Okay, yeah, so the move is knight to a4. In this position, Hans' opponent resigned the game, as you can see from the little crown. And why Hans' opponent did this is because this knight is going to take this pawn, and there's no way to stop it. The only practical try would have been queen d8 or rook a7, after which takes, rook a7, knight takes. Here, white is just crashing through, knight f5, bishop takes, push, right? So, okay, let me explain this. So there's no possible way to defend this b-pawn. You might say, okay, I'll just push it. Well, if you push it, now I put knight b6, fork. Your queen, I take your knight. I take your rook, sorry. Right, so, here, say you move the rook. Now I take your b6 pawn, and I take this, and now I'm just crashing through with a move like knight f5. Say knight e8. Bishop takes g5. Oh, sorry, not bishop takes f4. Here's very strong, and that's it for today's video, guys. Bye!